Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another great show for you today. Good morning, Briahna.
Good morning, Robby.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Big news day. We're going to be talking about the IDF strikes and killing of 7 foreign aid workers with the Jose Andres team in Gaza. We're going to be talking to Trita Parsi from the Quincy Institute about that and a lot of other big news events, the bombing of Damascus, et cetera. So do stick around.
But first, we have some domestic news to get to. Take it away.
Right. Well, the abortion issue will be in voters' hands in Florida come November. The state's Supreme Court ruled yesterday that Floridians will be able to decide whether to protect abortion rights through a ballot initiative. The vote was 4-3, with the 4 male judges signing off on a ballot proposal that could enshrine abortion protection into the state's constitution. The Sunshine State's Supreme Court also okayed voters to choose whether recreational use of marijuana should be legalized. The court defied the state attorney general's reasoning that these issues should be kept off the ballot.
The move comes on the same day that the Supreme Court ruled to uphold Florida's 15-week abortion ban, and it may shrink to 6 weeks as state lawmakers implement a 6-week ban while the issue was still in court. Now, the court weighed in on Monday the chances of the strict abortion law is all but guaranteed. In a statement, DeSantis press secretary Julia Friedland told Rising, "We agree with the 3 women on the court who got it right in dissent. This amendment is misleading and will confuse voters. The language hides the amendment's true purpose of mandating that abortions be permitted up to the time of birth. It's unclear how many other states will give voters the power to decide on abortion, but efforts to expand access following the 2022 Supreme Court Dobbs ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade."
So just right to that response, the characterization of it allowing abortion up to birth, the ballot initiative specifically talks about not allowing the government to restrict abortions before viability. So that's completely incorrect. And also it's worth noting that the court's decision here was not really a substantive one. There were, in both cases, both the marijuana case and the abortion case, really deciding the question of whether or not there were too many issues in one ballot initiative. So in Florida, they have single issue ballots, and there the pushback was whether or not legalizing weed had multiple constituent parts, legalizing abortion had multiple constituent parts that require those issues to be dealt with in separate ballots.
Right. I'm a big fan of the ballot initiative process. Basically, this is direct democracy. Just let the people vote on it. That was, frankly, the outcome of Roe, which I agreed with, that people in the state should be able to decide the abortion policy for their own states. So if they want a stricter abortion policy, they want a less strict abortion policy, they should be able to vote on it. So I don't like this tactic to try to keep off. Obviously, it's one that both sides engage in multiple states. I remember going through this with some ballot initiatives back when I lived in Michigan. Republicans trying to keep off ballot initiatives on issues that they don't want people to vote on. Democrats doing the same. It's no surprise there. Unfortunate, however, to see the DeSantis administration, taking this position, in my view, that is great to be voted on. And same for marijuana. I'm a big supporter of voting to legalize more marijuana. So I hope the voters can consider that issue and take advantage of it.
Yeah, one other aspect of this, I should say, is that if there is consultation with your doctor, a health need to save the life of the woman, obviously, which is a very popular, understandably so, provision, then obviously there could be an abortion up closer to the time of birth, post-viability. But again, that would be to protect the life of the mother in consultation with a doctor. It is interesting to see this going to a ballot initiative, particularly in Florida. Florida is a state that I think gets characterized overly broadly as really deep Trump country, deep DeSantis country, deep red country.
Well, it's moved red over the
back
years.
in 2020 that, back in 2016, that at the same time that Florida elected Donald Trump, in 2020, same time that Florida elected Trump, it also passed a $15 minimum wage. Now, Republicans have been working overtime to try to prevent that ballot initiative result from going into effect. To your point, elected officials tend to hate ballot initiatives. They don't like to have the power of the people taken out of their hands in these kinds of instances. But it was really incredible to see, I believe, if I recall correctly, that it was 60% of Floridians voted for a $15 minimum wage at the same time that the state voted for Donald Trump. And I do wonder if that's a harbinger of a progressive outcome in both the instance of abortion here and in marijuana legalization. Most Americans now live in states where marijuana is illegal. It's about half of the half of the states in the United States and most of the population in the United States. So if Floridians do pass this measure, they will be brought in line with the direction of the country more broadly.
Yeah, support for legalizing marijuana on some level is pretty overwhelmingly popular. I think depending on how it's asked and how it's polled and where it's polled, it's supported by a majority of Republicans as well. So that's good to see. I think on the going back to the abortion issue, I think there's a pretty big difference, and I think it's a big difference in the minds of the American people, frankly, between a 6-week ban and a 15-week ban. I imagine these two questions poll pretty starkly differently. So I can imagine a 6-week ban being the kind of thing that does inspire blowback, even in an otherwise red state.
Right, but that's not really what's going on right now. The question is whether or not Floridians are going to vote to protect the right to have an abortion before the point of viability. The issue is that the point of viability changes as science develops, but most people polls seem to suggest that majorities are really comfortable with that kind of a line in the sand. So at the same time the court upheld the abortion ban in Florida, it's also saying, hey, the people get to weigh in and make discrete decisions about what they want the laws to look like for themselves.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Everybody keeps talking about, abortion being the sort of dark horse issue in the election is the fact that Republicans have done so much at the state level to post Roe being overturned. Is that going to impact? Is that going to be like Biden's secret weapon for getting reelected?
Yeah, I do think that. We've seen this in a number of red states or purple states, places like Ohio and Kansas. No matter how conservative leaning they are, abortion tends to carry the issue for Democrats. And is the fact that this ballot initiative is on the ballot on Election Day going to turn out more Democratic voters than might be willing to come out, let's say, just to vote for Joe Biden, especially given how deep the discontent with him and his administration is right now with these unprecedentedly low poll numbers? Is this a kind of a strategic misstep from Republicans getting themselves into a situation where the abortion issue is something that drives Democratic turnout, even when their Democratic candidate is much less popular than the Republican candidate?
Yeah. We will continue to follow this, and we will have more Rising in just a minute. Stay tuned.